Hello, hello, hello. How are we all? Are we ready for Abu Dhabi? Oh, loads of people in the chat already. Hello. Cynical, Sally, Antonio, of course. Sarah's in there. How are we all feeling? Still really windy. Much better than yesterday. Are you talking about here or talking about Abu Dhabi? Both pretty windy. Here more so. The UK has been hit by a storm. I can't remember the name of the storm. It's going to be a storming day in Abu Dhabi as well, hopefully. That was transition. Let's very quickly get a couple of bits loaded up. We've got a few things to talk about before we get into the Grand Prix itself. A couple of penalties for some drivers that have just slightly changed up the grid positions that they will be in. Of course, we've got the Constructors' Championship on the line. We've got whether or not Haas can jump in front of Alpine in terms of 6th place. Looking less likely now, but again, we'll delve into why that is in a moment. How are we all feeling? Hello, hello, Josh in there, Aviation in there, Brock. Good morning from the US. What's the weather forecast in Abu Dhabi? I mean, it's a desert, so hot. Hot, slightly windy though, to be fair, slightly windy. Oh, Kevin Magnussen is already under investigation. Failing to follow practice start infringement for Kevin Magnussen is already under investigation. What on earth has Kevin Magnussen done before the race has even begun? Goodness me, Kevin. Sort it out. I'll get the championship predictor up as well, just so we've got that. There we go. Let's get ourselves sorted and lined up. How are we all feeling then? The final race of the season. Final turning point. Whether or not X, Y, or Z will be able to go on and win a championship or not. Just a shame. It's a little bit of a shame, obviously, that the Drivers' Championship not up for grabs. Although Formula 2, the Drivers' Championship was up for grabs. Did anybody watch that? Gabriel Bortoleto managed to seal it. Has done what Oscar Piastri did, gone back-to-back in terms of Formula 3 and then Formula 2 championships. Stake Sauber seem to have a pretty solid driver on their hands for the future there, don't they? He did very, very well indeed. I mean, it was kind of handed to him. Isaac Hadjar, his championship contender, championship opponent, however you want it to see, did stall his car on the first lap and then was a lap down for the rest of the race. It got very, very awkward very, very quickly for Isaac Hadjar, unfortunately for him. So, I don't know. Was it the pressure, maybe? Was it the fact that the championship was on the line? Obviously, he was second to Bortoleto in the standings anyway, but I think he would have wanted more from the race in Formula 2. How are we all doing then? Not taking any chances. Magnussen doing everything he can to destroy Hulk, getting a podium that he deserves. Feel bad for Matt. His Ferrari dreams were driven to dust. What happened to Matt? Or just the fact that Ferrari are not going to win the Constructors' Championship because it is looking very, very good for the Mercedes boys. I don't know though. I never want to like fully commit because I've seen craziness happen in Formula 1. I know that things can go wrong very, very quickly, and it wouldn't surprise me if it all went wrong. For McLaren today, like undoubtedly we'll end up being in a position where, I don't know, thrown away a win. Lando Norris is 10th. Charles Leclerc has somehow gone from the back of the grid to P3, and it's like, oh, God. It's all falling apart again, lads. It's all falling apart again. I did think where we could start, though, and just sort of have a little chat about to begin with, is just sort of saying goodbye to quite a few of the drivers on the Formula 1 grid, really. It's kind of happened slowly throughout the season, and lots of things have kind of led to a few drivers losing their positions. But if I show you the grid at the end of last season, for instance, if I just sort of show you that to begin with, it is just dramatically different, right? I think you forget how many driver swaps have happened, how many people have lost their seat, what sort of happens to various members of the Formula One grid throughout the season, because it has really changed around. Like, a lot has swapped. So, for instance, drivers that we've said goodbye to already, Logan Sargent, Daniel Ricciardo, will not be on the Formula One grid in 2025. They've already lost their seats as the season has progressed. Obviously, Logan Sargent replaced by Colapinto. Colapinto also not on the grid next season. Daniel Ricciardo replaced by Liam Lawson, not yet confirmed to be on the grid next season. So we've already had to say goodbye to those two. But also, at the end of this race, we're sort of losing Valtteri Bottas, we're losing Zhou Guanyu, we're losing Kevin Magnussen. There's a good chunk of drivers that, you know, have been in, especially Kevin Magnussen and Valtteri Bottas, have been in and around Formula One for such a long time now and are really pivotal parts of the sport and real key members of the Formula One grid. You can throw Daniel Ricciardo in that, of course, as well, although we've, as I said, kind of said goodbye to him a little bit earlier than the rest. But I do want to say sort of to Valtteri, to Kevin, I know that maybe there's an opportunity for Valtteri to come back in the future. And I think Valtteri will probably end up in and around the Formula One grid in one way or another. Maybe as a reserve driver somewhere. I know he's been linked to that Mercedes seat, so maybe that ends up happening for him. But I just really wish there was a spot for him sort of in the Formula One sphere somewhere for the future. But we'll have to kind of wait and see. Throw Perez out. Yeah, Perez has sort of got a question mark next to him, hasn't he, for the foreseeable future. But those 5 drivers towards the bottom of the grid there in terms of this graphic, of course. But all of those drivers there saying goodbye to and obviously not seeing in the 2025 season. And it's kind of crept up on us, the fact that 5 of 20 drivers are falling off of the grid. And I know that means, and it's really, really exciting that they're then getting the opportunity to be replaced by younger drivers and rookie drivers that we are really excited about. You know, we're going to see the likes of Kimi Antonelli come in. We're going to see Behrman, Doohan. There's so many, like I've just talked about Gabriel Bortoleto winning the Formula 2 championship. There's so many sort of cool and exciting drivers and fun drivers that are coming onto the Formula 1 grid. But I did want to say sort of thank you and goodbye to those drivers that have also, you know, worked really, really hard. They don't work any less hard than the other drivers on the grid. They give their absolute all. And it is a tough, tough job being a Formula 1 driver. It's a lot of pressure. And they've done it. But shall we talk about this year then? As much as we can say thank you, let's say hello as well. Obviously, Gabriel Bortoleto is confirmed to be down there in the Stakes Sauber car. For some reason, I couldn't find a graphic that had Gabriel Bortoleto on it. But Gabriel Bortoleto there. Nico Hülkenberg in a new team. So just to kind of highlight the drivers that are moving as well. So it's not just the new drivers on the grid, but drivers that are also swapping teams for this next season is a good chunk. And then on top of that, we've got the rookies. We've got your Antonellis. We've got your Jack Doohans, possibly your Liam Lawsons. We've got your Ollie Behrmans, your Gabriel Bortoletos. 5 brand new drivers coming onto the Formula 1 grid. 4 drivers swapping from one team to another. Hamilton moving, Sainz moving, Hülkenberg moving, Ocon moving. It's a lot to kind of get really excited about going into next season. So as much as I want to say thank you and appreciate, especially Valtteri Bottas, Daniel Ricciardo, in my opinion. Kevin Magnussen's in there as well, given a lot. Less so Zhou and Sargent, maybe just because they haven't had the longevity. It's not, well, in Sargent's case, more their fault. I think in Zhou's case, unfortunately, just been given an absolute torrid time inside of that Stakes Sauber team that he couldn't really do much about. But as much as I want to say thank you, I'm really, really excited to see those rookies. And as I say, really, really excited to see Hamilton in a Ferrari, Sainz in a Williams. Gonna be very, very exciting indeed. Did Hadjar fail in Formula 2? I mean, he didn't fail. Was heartbreaking though. Yeah, you are right. It was very, very tricky for Isaac Hadjar this morning. He stalled on the grid and then ended up a lap down on everybody else. That's not where you want to be when you're in a title fight. Lawson is possibly going to RB, not VCarb. That's very true. Yeah, but Perez out. Yeah, but this is just confirmed. You know what I mean? Like, of course, you can sort of say Sergio Perez. There's the question mark there, but this should be Liam Lawson, right? Given everything that we kind of know, and the fact that Isaac Hadjar didn't win the Formula 2 championship, as much as he's done very, very well. You see the glitch in the Formula 1 website that put Bottas in the Red Bull. Yeah, that was weird. I mean, it's never, ever going to happen. Absolutely never, ever going to happen whatsoever. But I do want to kind of put that to you and put this to you guys. So if you sort of had to say which driver you're most upset to see go of those five, so Sargent, Joe, Bottas, why have I just lost all the will? Daniel Ricciardo, Kevin Magnussen. Forgot Daniel Ricciardo's name then. In my mind, it was RB driver. The RB man. Daniel Ricciardo, Kevin Magnussen. Of those five drivers, kind of which one are you most upset to see go? I think for me, probably Bottas, just because he has driven really well this season. I don't think he's, lost his seat on merit as such. I think he's more just lost his seat because of the adaptations that are happening at Audi and then just couldn't kind of sit in anywhere else. And then of those drivers, I can already see some people saying, they're really excited to see Behrman in the Haas next year. I'm really, really intrigued to see what Gabriel Bortoleto can do in a Stake Sauber now that we've seen him as a Formula 2 champion. And also the fact that he is back-to-back Formula 2 and Formula 3 champions. So he's coming in that same build as Oscar Piastri, Charles Leclerc before him. It's a pretty high standard of driver to put him in and amongst. And then of the drivers swapping, who are you most excited to see? I think Hamilton in the Ferraris may be the obvious one. Although Esteban Ocon in a Haas, I think, is quite intriguing as well. Definitely Bottas, K-Mag or Bottas, Joe and Bottas. Yeah, I think it's that. The longevity definitely helps, isn't it? Probably Danny. Love Franco, but not as much attachment. Yeah, I don't think you can quite put kind of... I know that Liam Lawson might end up on the Formula 1 grid, but Liam Lawson and Franco Colapinto, I don't think have that same sort of history, obviously, behind them and the same draw that you can kind of put them in the same ranks as Bottas or Kevin for that foreseeable future. What does the question mark mean? Which one? Near Liam Lawson? It just means that he hasn't actually been confirmed as of yet, but we're expecting it to be Liam Lawson. And then there's a little bit of discussion about whether or not Sergio Perez is going to be in that seat for next season. Red Bull kind of going back and forward on it throughout the entire year, so we don't really know who's going to be there for the foreseeable future. But assuming it is Sergio Perez, as it is confirmed to be at the moment, this is what the grid will kind of look like. As I say, I'm expecting that to be Liam Lawson. Could be Isaac Hadjar. But less likely, I think, than Liam Lawson. I think Isaac Hadjar, for me, he's got a little bit of the Yuki Tsunoda attitude about him that Red Bull don't really seem to like. He is quite boisterous, is Isaac Hadjar, and very vocal on the radio, and something goes wrong for him, he's very quick to tell you. He's got that kind of attitude, which, you do kind of have to do at some point or another, but at the same time, why not Stroll? Yeah. People really want to get rid of Lance Stroll, don't they? But he is guaranteed to be in that seat for next season. That is an absolute 100% guarantee. Jack Doohan was like a little bit of a question mark when they were talking to Franco Colapinto for a bit, but now they've got him in the seat for the race today. I think definitely will slot into that seat and be fine for the foreseeable future, will Jack Doohan. Missed quali playing Forza. Excellent. Good work. That's fair enough. Excited for Hulk 2026. Yeah, that's the thing. It's almost like a year off for Nico Hulkenberg. Not that he needs one of those. You've got to remember, he was off the grid for 3 years, was Nico Hulkenberg, as a reserve driver. So I know it's not like a year off fully, but at the same time, I don't think there's going to be much for Nico Hulkenberg to fight for next season. Although saying that, we said this about Haas at the beginning of this year, because they just looked so dead and buried at the end of last season. They managed to turn it around. They're now fighting for 6th in the constructor standings. If you can make a couple of changes and get your car in the right situation, maybe Stakes Sauber next year come along and they're fighting for like 7th or 8th in the constructor standings. Be crazy. I'm not expecting it to happen, don't get me wrong. But I don't think it's like completely unbelievable that it could. They will still be working on that car for 2025. But as you say, I think they've got more of an eye on 2026. Opinion on Max's baby? I don't know if I have an opinion. He's having a baby. He's been with his girlfriend for a very long time. Congratulations. I don't know if I have an opinion on it. Got a feeling that Gasly and Hulk are going to cook today. Shall we talk about the grid then? Shall we move away from the nostalgia of 2024, the looking forward to 2025, and actually let's talk about qualifying, what happened yesterday, who's starting where, because as you can see, there's been a few changes. Oh, messed up there. There you go. There's been a few changes to who is where in terms of the Formula One grid compared to qualifying yesterday. So if you watch qualifying, there are a few bits and pieces, a few penalties that were already guaranteed. So for instance, we knew Charles Leclerc was going to be taking a penalty. We knew Colapinto was going to be taking a penalty. Albon was going to be taking a penalty. On top of that, we've then also got a couple more penalties that have been added into the mix. So just going from top to bottom, Lando Norris still on pole position after yesterday. The McLaren car looking the best of the bunch in this weekend in that battle for P1 in the Constructors' Championship. Remember, they do lead by 21 points to Ferrari as it stands. There's 44 points available. Currently, they would be scoring 43 of those 44 by just being first and second place. Of course, fastest lap point in there as well, which is going at the end of the season. Again, a little bit of nostalgia there. Remember the times there was a fastest lap point. It will be gone at the end of this year. Then we have Carlos Sainz starting in third, just behind. Again, doing his bit for the Ferrari team, trying to close that gap. 21 points is a huge swing, though. Like, even if Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, well, I suppose if they both drop out, actually, Carlos Sainz would be winning the Grand Prix. So he would be technically getting above that 21-point gap. So maybe he's just hoping that Norris and Piastri come to blows at the front of the pack. Carlos Sainz can swoop in and take another victory for Ferrari. Couple of victories already this season for Ferrari. Done amazingly in his final season for the Scuderia. Max Verstappen starts in 4th place now. You might remember, if you were here yesterday, that was Nico Hulkenberg in a 4th place. He has taken a 3-place grid penalty. And it's devastating, isn't it? We were hoping Hulkenberg, final race for Haas. He's done so well this season to try and drag them to a 6th place in the constructor standings. A top 10 finish on the line as well. A point between him and Gasly in terms of the driver's standings. And he will really want that 10th place. You know, finishing in the top half, especially when 8 of those positions are effectively taken. And Fernando Alonso also guaranteed himself 9th place in the standings so early on this year. So the real battle has been for 10th place in the standings. And Nico Hulkenberg has continually, in my opinion, been that best of the rest driver. I know Pierre Gasly might end up beating him to that, but I still think, generally speaking, we can say that Nico Hulkenberg has been the better driver of the bunch. But yeah, Hulkenberg taking a 3-place grid penalty, for overtaking in the pit lane. So we even had this discussion, I think, during qualifying. The pit lane here is a little bit strange, where at the end of the pit lane, you actually go down a slope and in a tunnel underneath the track, and then you come out near turn 2. So the pit is actually on the outside of the track, which is really strange, like not the norm for anywhere. And it means that you have to go down and underneath the track to rejoin it. And you have to go through the little tunnel. Therefore, the race director kind of put in place this, because we've seen quite a lot of overtaking in the pit lane of recent weekends. And they didn't want there to be any kind of crashes or collisions inside of that little tunnel area, because that would just completely ruin qualifying in its entirety. Like, it would be over effectively, because it would take it would have to be red flagged. Because it would take so long to get that up and running again. It's just that Nico Hülkenberg went a little bit against that, effectively. He decided to do a tiny little overtake, just a marginal little overtake, inside of that pit exit, and therefore got a 3-place grid penalty. It's one of those things where it's like really frustrating, but you can't argue against it. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, go on, just let him off. And you can't do that. You just can't let a driver off for actually breaking one of the kind of fundamental rules that you've put in place for the race, right? And it's a shame. It is a real shame. But Nico Hülkenberg drops down to 7th place. That does also promote Pierre Gasly, that man that we've been talking about a lot of recent times. But Pierre Gasly up to 5th spot. So looking very good for Alpine, isn't it? Looking very, very good indeed. They go into the weekend already ahead in the Constructors' Championship. Gasly 1 point behind Hülkenberg as well in the Drivers' Championship. It's looking very, very good for Alpine and Gasly right now. 5th place for them, and that would just the likelihood of Hülkenberg being able to get past George Russell and Pierre Gasly. He's going to have to do something special at the start, is Nico Hülkenberg, and then hope that Pierre Gasly has a bit of a nightmare race. And it's not impossible, because the Alpine car has had some of those this season. But Pierre Gasly starting in 5th, Russell starting in 6th beside him. Then Hülkenberg, as we've discussed, dropping down to 7th, with Fernando Alonso in 8th place as well. It was great from Fernando Alonso yesterday. Really, really impressed with him in that Aston Martin car, especially considering where he was on Friday. Absolutely hating it. Then, inside of the top 10, we have Valtteri Bottas outperforming Sergio Perez. Valtteri Bottas, again, the only driver on the grid today. Oh, no, sorry, because Doohan is there as well. But Valtteri Bottas has taken part in 24 Grand Prix. Doohan has taken part in 1. So, Valtteri Bottas, the only full season driver that has not yet scored a point and is still taking part in the Grand Prix this afternoon. Possibility of points for him. Starts in 9th place. Would be absolutely wonderful for him to end his kind of time in Formula 1 with a point scoring finish. Definitely deserving of one over the course of the season. You look at how many times he's been fairly close, considering how bad that Stake Sauber car has been. Valtteri Bottas deserves a point. Like, just give it to him. Sergio Perez starting behind him in 10th place. Interesting that both of the RBs are right there as well. That could be a nice little trio. Perez, Tsunoda, Lawson. Keep an eye on that triplet as we get through the Grand Prix, because obviously all of them really vying for Sergio Perez's place. There's been a lot of discussion about whether or not Yuki Tsunoda could get in there. There's been a lot of discussion about whether Tsunoda isn't good enough still, and Lawson is just going to like leapfrog into the Red Bull seat straight away, because he hasn't actually ever been a full-time RB driver, we've got to remember. Liam Lawson's still not confirmed for next season in an RB car, let alone in a Red Bull. So that's a really intriguing little trio, just at the fringes of the points as well. Just behind that, Lance Stroll in 13th place. Kevin Magnussen 14th place, but as I said, is under investigation for infringing on the race start. Let me see if that's actually come through. Will be investigated after the session, of course, in classic Formula 1 fashion. Kevin Magnussen failing to follow the race director's instructions when it came to a practice start. So we might even see Kevin Magnussen smacked with a a penalty of some kind. I hope that it's just like a fine or something. Give him a fine. Doesn't matter. It's his final race in Formula One. Bless him. Zhou Guanyu starts in 15th place after the Williamses kind of slot in behind. Charles Leclerc also drop into the back of the pack. We'll get to them momentarily. Lewis Hamilton up to 16th place after he crashed out in Q1 because of a bollard incident. That was very weird, wasn't it? Kevin Magnussen hitting into that bollard and then it getting caught underneath Lewis Hamilton's car. He was green, by the way. It's not like he was going to drop out anyway. He was pretty much through, was Lewis Hamilton, and then the bollard incident happened, and that cost him a good couple attempts. So Hamilton probably would have been free, but starting from 16th place, we'll have to wait and see. And then Jack Doohan was the slowest qualifier yesterday. He jumps up, though, to 17th place after a few penalties for the drivers behind. Albon and Colapinto both had 5-place grid penalties for replacing their gearboxes. The Williams team just rattling through components at this point in the season like nobody's business. Just, oh, we got any budget cap left? Just chuck that on various different components that we need for the Formula One car. And Williams having to do that with their gearboxes this time around. So Albon starts 18th, Colapinto drops to the back of the pack. And Charles Leclerc, a 10-place grid penalty for the Monegasque. Technically would have dropped into 24th, but because Colapinto would have been 24th as well, Charles Leclerc actually doesn't start from the back of the pack, but does start from 19th place. So, and that was for an ERS change, 10-place grid penalty for Charles Leclerc. But that is going to be our starting grid for today. Let me just get the detailed board up for you. Let's see what we can do. We've got some driver radio messages coming through actually already before the start of the race. Jack Doohan doesn't have a picture. That's a shame. They didn't obviously have time to get Jack Doohan in the photography studio before this weekend's proceedings. Bless him. He was dropped in very last minute, was Jack Doohan. A few driver messages coming through and lots of celebrations, as I say, up and down the grid. The Mercedes team getting pictures with Lewis Hamilton beforehand. Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc did a really lovely piece for Sky Sports. It's well worth watching. I think that's on the YouTube channel now. So very, very nice indeed to end the season with a lot of positivity, a lot of hope moving forwards, but also a lot of intrigue. There's going to be a few drivers that got a lot of pressure on them to perform, not only today, but in the future as well. How are we doing in the chat? Nearly 100 likes before the race even starts. Thank you so much, guys. If we could hit that like button, if you are enjoying the stream so far, we are going to get underway here in Abu Dhabi in just a couple of minutes' time. And we were trying to get to 110,000 subscribers before the end of the season. We are on 109,163. Is it possible to get 800 subscribers in one live stream? Possibly not, but we'll give it our best shot. So if you are new here, hit that subscribe button. We were aiming for 50,000 subscribers before the end of the season, by the way. So the fact that we've doubled that and now we're looking for 110 is absolutely bonkers. So I do just want to say a massive, massive thank you to all of you guys for all of your support over the course of the season. It's been really, really fun. Absolutely. Saying there's a chance. There's a chance. There's always a chance. Never say never when it comes to Formula One. We've just had another couple of subscribers just in that moment there that I've been talking about it. So 837 is down to 835. But indeed, we are 2 minutes away. We'll swap over to the more detailed screen once the drivers get underway. If you are joining us in the shorts feed, feel free to come over to the full stream by hitting the channel link if you want a little bit more detail in terms of what's happening during the race. But I do massively appreciate some of you guys on mobile join us in the shorts feed, something that we're trialing for the end of the season. I can see that a couple of people have just subbed from the shorts feed, so thank you for that as well. goodbye to the craziest season since 2021. I mean, yeah, but only because 2022 and 2023 was so dominant from Red Bull in a reason they weren't really unpredictable. This season has been absolutely mental in terms of everything that we've just thrown at us across the season. Let's get into the detailed race board then. The formation lap is underway. Lando Norris is going to go around. Craziest prediction that you got? What would be crazy? Like a Yuki Tsunoda podium? Something like that. I think would be the craziest thing that we could possibly see. Zhou Guanyu podium? Unlikely, I think. Thoughts on Ferrari's chances to win the Constructors? I think Charles Leclerc's penalty kind of puts an end to that, if I'm honest. I think that is it. And Franco Colapinto thanking the Williams team before they even get underway. Just thanking them for the opportunity, thanking them for 9 races in Formula One. It's a good stint of races Franco Colapinto has had. Shown his quality. The first 5 were ridiculous from Franco Colapinto. Then it got a little bit trickier. Obviously had the mixed conditions in Brazil, kind of caught him out, I think. And then on top of that, a crash in Vegas, which didn't help him at all. Franco Colapinto thanking the team as we are coming around towards the final sector. Lando Norris just making his way through the hotel portion of the track. And around Oscar Piastri behind him. And Valtteri Bottas the same. Thanking Sauber, thanking Ferrari, of course, for their engines and suspension. And Valtteri Bottas saying goodbye to the Formula One grid as well. Getting the thank yous out of the way early, I think, just in case it does fall apart over the course of the next 58 laps here in Abu Dhabi. I've got to think, Valtteri Bottas leaving the sport. So many championships in hand for Mercedes, 10 victories in Formula One. Getting to double digits is not an easy feat in Formula One. There's a lot of race drivers with a lot less victories than Valtteri Bottas. There's a lot of race drivers that never even get 1 victory, let alone 10. So Valtteri Bottas, an absolute legend of this final few seasons. And then the McLaren crew then. 1998, the last time they won a Constructors' Championship. Norris and Piastri starting first and second. They are looking very good indeed for it. But there's 58 laps in the way of them winning that championship. Just watching Franco Colapinto now coming around the final corner. Once he is stationary at the back of the grid, we'll get 5 red lights for the final time in 2024. 20 cars formed behind the lights. The green flag is waved. And we are going to get underway for the final race of the 2024 season. And here we go. It's Lando Norris versus Oscar Piastri down towards turn 1. Already cars in the background veering away from one another. Lando Norris under pressure. Oh, and there's a touch. There's a touch between Piastri and Verstappen. Piastri and Verstappen both facing the wrong way as they go round towards turn 1. That has meant that Carlos Sainz has jumped up to second place. Gasly into third. Russell 4th. Hülkenberg 5th. That is an absolutely dreadful start for Piastri. Max Verstappen was facing the wrong way, but managed to spin his car around just that little bit quicker. Piastri is going to fall a distance away from the rest of the grid. And has that opened the door? Because Charles Leclerc has got an absolutely rapid start. Leclerc all the way up into 11th place already. Lewis Hamilton up into 14th. It's been pretty terrible for Yuki Tsunoda. Oh, and Sergio Perez is round. Sergio Perez has spun as well. So Sergio Perez drops to 19th place. Everybody getting themselves in a little bit of a compromising position. I think there's damage to a Stake Sauber car there. I think that was part of the front wing, possibly a Valtteri Bottas. I think the front wing of Valtteri Bottas's car has taken a good chunk of damage, and maybe even the side as well, because there were sparks flying from that Stake Sauber car. Lando Norris has disappeared up into the distance, though. He's a couple of seconds ahead of Carlos Sainz already. Lando Norris disappearing away from the chaos that is happening behind. And a wonderful start for Pierre Gasly means that he's now up into the podium places as well. Let's have a little restart of this then. Max Verstappen gets a wonderful start in that Red Bull car. He's already ahead of Carlos Sainz down towards turn one, goes up the inside as Max Verstappen and just clips the rear end of Oscar Piastri. Luckily for Verstappen, he does kind of a full 360 and is able to rejoin the race. But oh, there's a yellow flag in Sector 3. I think that's Sergio Perez. And Sergio Perez has come to a stop. I know that he had a collision. Oh my goodness. And that is a Sergio Perez DNF. The final race of the season. Virtual safety car comes out as Max Verstappen tries to make an overtake and then has to give the position back to Liam Lawson, as the race has to come to a stop here as they get Sergio Perez's car moved away. And is that going to be Sergio Perez's last drive in a Red Bull car? We needed something a little bit special from Sergio Perez, and that is now a DNF. Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz just coming closer together. Those gaps technically have to stay as they were, but of course, it's going to be a little bit... It's always a little bit fiddly with a virtual safety car, isn't it? It's like, oh, did he gain? Did he lose? Gasly up to third place. Russell up to fourth. Hülkenberg has moved up to fifth place. Kevin Magnussen inside of the point scoring places as well now. So both of the Haas's inside of the points. But Pierre Gasly up in third place is who they will be trying to catch. You can see both of the Haas cars just looking at the back of Pierre Gasly's Alpine, thinking, can we do it for the team? Can we get sixth place in the constructor standings? Going to be a little bit of a battle there. Unfortunately, Valtteri Bottas now drops down into 13th place. Verstappen up to 11th. Hamilton in 12th after Verstappen's spin. Piastri still at the back of the pack. Charles Leclerc is up into 8th place from 19th, by the way, which is absolutely crazy from him. We then have a look at what that means in terms of the championship. McLaren still do win it just because Lando Norris is still first at this moment in time, but Ferrari are gaining. So it could come down to Charles Leclerc making his way through the pack. Carlos Sainz putting them under pressure. Green flag is waved. DRS is enabled. And George Russell is right under the rear end of Pierre Gasly. Russell with one more podium in his sights for this season. And George Russell trying to go around the outside of turn 9. Gasly closes the door and the Frenchman keeps third place. Carlos Sainz 3 seconds adrift of Lando Norris now. And Lando Norris disappearing into the distance. Lando Norris absolutely flying away. Nico Hülkenberg in 5th place, having a little look at this battle between Gasly and Russell and hoping that he can get into the position. Can he gain? Ooh, having a little look. Oscar Piastri just behind the Williams car. Oh! And he touches. And Oscar Piastri actually hit into the back of Franco Colapinto. That was a pretty big mistake from Oscar Piastri there. Just bumped into the back. And Franco Colapinto has a puncture. So that was where Colapinto picked up that puncture. Got hit into the back of the Williams car by Oscar Piastri on the restart. Down the back straight we come then. Norris still leading. Sainz second. Gasly third. Russell fourth. Hülkenberg fifth. Alonso, Magnussen, Leclerc, Stroll and Verstappen inside of the point scoring places. Liam Lawson in 11th place just outside. He's under pressure from Lewis Hamilton. McLaren Mercedes still at the top of the Constructors' Championship. And Alpine still leading Haas for 6th place as well. Franco Colapinto does manage to get his Williams car around to the pit lane and is now rejoining the track, but is going to be almost a lap down Franco Colapinto. And there is that incident between Verstappen and Piastri at the start is under investigation. I mean, both of them have lost out quite substantially. Verstappen now all the way down in 10th. Piastri 18th. McLaren team say box. Was there damage to the front wing of that McLaren car maybe? Or are they just going for some sort of crazy strategy? Stick him on the hard compound tyre and just go until the end. Oscar Piastri now was looking like a podium was at play, but unfortunately not looking good anymore. And yeah, they just wanted to come in to put the hard compound tyre onto Piastri's car. I think a little tweak of the front wing as well, but not a brand new front wing, so no damage to it. What happened to Piastri? Contact with Max Verstappen at turn 1. Carlos Sainz is starting to gain on Lando Norris as well here. Lando Norris, of course, kind of expected to be on pole position, managed to hold on to it, and now 5 laps into this Grand Prix has led throughout. It's a 3-second gap to Carlos Sainz, but it is slowly diminishing from 3 seconds down towards 2 seconds. And that incident, 10-second penalty for Verstappen. Verstappen darts down the inside. I think he was the one that hit into Piastri. So Verstappen with a 10-second penalty. A 10-second penalty for Verstappen for that collision at the beginning of the race. Max Verstappen. And Verstappen saying it was just unlucky. He thinks he was all the way up the inside. I think he was halfway up the inside. Carlos Sainz got to see it all happen in front of him, though. A pretty poor start from Carlos Sainz. He'll be kind of benefiting from that because he managed to... Ooh, wow. That was really, really well timed, actually, for Carlos Sainz because just kind of parted the Red Sea. Verstappen went to the left, Piastri went to the right, and Verstappen... And then Carlos Sainz, down the middle. And Piastri, a move of a world champion, that one. And not very happy at all. Piastri spun around. Piastri now running 18th. Has pitted for some hard compound tyres. We'll kind of see what pace he's got. I do feel like points are still available to Piastri, especially if there is a safety car or something that happens over the course of this race. You wanted a proper fight. I mean, if anything, this makes it more of a fight. Norris versus Sainz for the victory. Leclerc, and whether or not Charles Leclerc is going to be able to do it. Charles Leclerc, very happy to be P8 indeed. Here's the replay of the Sergio Perez Valtteri Bottas incident. Bottas went up the inside at turn 6. Oh, I think Valtteri Bottas actually caused the collision there. Yeah, he did. Bottas getting a 10-second penalty as well. That's just come through as we were watching the replay. So Valtteri Bottas with a 10-second penalty also. And he comes into the pits, I think, to serve that and then also get himself onto those new hard compound tyres. So unfortunately, points for Valtteri Bottas have disappeared away from being likely. A 10-second penalty for Verstappen, a 10-second penalty for Valtteri Bottas as well. Valtteri Bottas is in the pits, might even retire the car here. Valtteri Bottas has been in the pits for a very, very long time. They might be changing the front wing on there as well, though. Valtteri Bottas did have front wing damage. Here comes George Russell behind Pierre Gasly once again, and Pierre Gasly's just doing an excellent job of just making sure he covers that inside of turn 9, placing his car perfectly so that George Russell has to make a decision, and forcing that decision to be very difficult is Pierre Gasly. George Russell then is just going to maybe bide his time and wait for the tyres to come towards him. You'd imagine that Mercedes car a little bit more longevity on it than the Alpine, but you never know. And Piastri being told on the radio that Verstappen has been given a 10-second penalty. Problem is, Piastri is quite a distance away, so even with that 10-second penalty, doesn't really help him out that much at this moment in time. Max saw an Australian and said, close enough to George. Yes. A little bit of the Great British flag, obviously, on there. Let's have a look then. Championship still in McLaren's hands, even though Charles Leclerc has now moved up into 7th place. Remember, they need a 21-point swing, and with Lando Norris in first place scoring 25 points, it is impossible for Ferrari to win the championship if a McLaren car wins. So, looking at Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz, and that gap now has elongated back to 3 seconds once again. Kevin Magnussen, having been overtaken by Charles Leclerc, is now under pressure from Max Verstappen. Inside of the point scoring places, though, Kevin Magnussen would still be there. Lance Stroll is in 10th place. And Liam Lawson down in 11th. Lewis Hamilton still running in 12th. But Hamilton starting on the hard compound tyre and going for a completely different strategy. So could run very, very long, could Lewis Hamilton, and try something a bit different. Oscar Piastri doing fastest laps after fastest laps. Lando Norris then rebuttals with the fastest lap of his own. There was a... Is Lewis Hamilton going to go for a move there? Liam Lawson just having a little look at the Mercedes car at the moment. But now looking at Verstappen versus Magnussen as they go down towards the chicane. Is there going to be an overtaking opportunity for the Red Bull? Verstappen still trying to make his way back up. Of course, 10-second penalty for Max Verstappen. Going to drop him down the order substantially whenever he does decide to go and pit. And Oscar Piastri with a penalty as well. A 10-second penalty for Piastri. What was that one for? Should we have a little look? Oscar Piastri. For hitting into Colapinto, of course. So a 10-second penalty for Oscar Piastri as well for hitting into the back of Franco Colapinto. So just to summarize, Piastri has a 10-second penalty. Verstappen has a 10-second penalty. Valtteri Bottas had a 10-second penalty, which he has already served. So Piastri and Verstappen with penalties to play out. His stewards are chucking out some penalties here, there, and everywhere at the moment, aren't they? The investigation's coming through. Oh, there you go. I can actually show it to you now. So those three. Piastri, 10-second penalty for causing a collision with Colapinto. Verstappen, 10-second penalty for causing a collision with Oscar Piastri at the start. And Valtteri Bottas, a 10-second penalty for causing a collision with Sergio Perez, who is now out of the race. And Ferrari of Charles Leclerc is now underneath the rear wing of Fernando Alonso and going for a move on the Spaniard, and actually gets that move done pretty quickly before they even get down to turn 6, turn 7. And Charles Leclerc now up into 6th place. That Aston Martin is ridiculously slow on the straights, isn't it? Charles Leclerc got past him before he'd even made any kind of move, and then gets away from him comfortably, even with the Aston Martin having DRS down towards turn 9. Hulkenberg podium. I mean, it's looking like a Gasly podium at this moment in time, unfortunately. For those who are hoping for a Haas, it would have been Hulkenberg had he not got that 3-place penalty. Remember, he would have been right up there. Started 4th. Could possibly be where Carlos Sainz is right now, Nico Hulkenberg, if he hadn't got that 3-place penalty overtaken in the pit lane. Oh, and that's where it all went wrong for Fernando. Fernando actually went wide at turn 1, and that's what allowed Charles Leclerc to be right underneath him and made the overtake a lot easier for Charles Leclerc than he was maybe expecting it to be. Come on, George, dive bomb Gasly and double DNF. Why did Hulk get a penalty? He overtook in the pit lane, which was a directive from the race director to not do that. Basically, this weekend, because of the style of pit lane that we have. Looking at the Constructors' Championship now, Alpine scoring 15 points, Haas scoring 12. So Alpine would elongate their lead, even though Gasly is the only Alpine car inside of the points. Both of the Haas's in the points in 5th and 9th. Jack Doohan all the way down in 16th place and not really causing anyone a headache. Jack Doohan just using this more of a test run, really, for Jack Doohan. And Nico Hülkenberg under pressure now from Charles Leclerc. They're both Ferrari-powered cars. The Haas is going to be continued to be powered by Ferrari come the 2026 regulations as well. That partnership continues. And Nico Hülkenberg now under pressure from the full works team behind him. His final race inside of a Haas car. Why did Max get a penalty? Because he hit into Oscar Piastri at turn 1. And oh, that's a nice little move. Lewis Hamilton gets Lawson, and then Lawson gets him back down towards turn 9. Nice little battle actually emerging between Lawson and Hamilton for the final point scoring place. Oh, there's some track limits warnings coming through. Let's have a little gander at those. Liam Lawson, 2 warnings for track limits. Verstappen 1, Leclerc 1. Ooh. Oh, and Charles Leclerc going for a move down the inside of Nico Hülkenberg at round turn 9. Yes, he is indeed. Go on, Charles. Throw around the outside. And Charles Leclerc gets himself up into 5th place. That was a stunning move from Charles Leclerc. Up into 5th place, which is absolutely insane considering where he started. And Hamilton on the radio just saying that he's got no pace whatsoever. Hamilton not happy inside of that Mercedes car. His final race, of course, 58th laps he had inside of a Mercedes left to run in his career. 46 left to go as it is. And not enjoying them. It's Max Verstappen also now making a move past Fernando Alonso. Alonso starting to fall down the order in the Aston Martin. Kevin Magnussen coming into the pits. Oh, and it's a slow stop for Kevin Magnussen. The rear right tyre a little bit stuck. Magnussen, a slow pit stop. It's going to drop him down the order. Zhou Guanyu and Alex Albon also into the pits as well. So drivers deciding to go early onto the hard compound tyre. Piastri now up into 14th. After those pit stops, did well, Piastri, to kind of close the gap enough to those cars at the back of the pack. And Alex Albon now with DRS having a little look at Zhou Guanyu and gets past him pretty comfortably. The Stake Sauber cars now running 17th and 18th. The pit stops are starting to trickle then. Looks like Fernando Alonso also wants to come in maybe. Those hard compound tyres does indeed. Fernando Alonso heels into the pits. And Nico Hülkenberg also into the pits as well ahead of him. So both of the Haas's deciding to pit early, knowing that maybe this medium compound tyre isn't the best in terms of race pace for them. Let's see if they can get a better stop for Hülkenberg. Much, much swifter than Nico Hülkenberg. A 2.5 second stop. It's going to put Hülkenberg back out into that pack. Praying now that a safety car doesn't happen, of course, because you do pit early, you run that risk. If there is a safety car, what happened to Sergio Perez? A collision with Valtteri Bottas down towards turn 6, turn 7. Bottas actually was to blame for it. He sent the car spinning, and then I don't really know why he came to a stop. Maybe there was just too much damage to that Red Bull car. He kind of went for another few corners to Sergio Perez and then pulled off to the side of the road and out of the race. George Russell still trying everything that he can to get past Pierre Gasly. You can see Pierre Gasly just has nowhere near the pace of the top two. Norris and Sainz disappearing up the road from the Alpine. And George Russell is finally going to get released from behind the Alpine as Pierre Gasly pits. Charles Leclerc now gaining on this duo. And Charles Leclerc would have been looking at that and licking his lips, actually, because Gasly, his good friend, has done him a good job there. Charles Leclerc now 1.5 seconds behind Russell because Russell was going so slowly behind the Alpine. Let's see if Charles Leclerc can get his Ferrari up into the podium scoring places, having started all the way back in 19th. Pierre Gasly now coming around to the pit exit. His teammate for the weekend, Jack Doohan, just ahead of him. And his teammate for next season as well. We'll see if those two have a little battle with one another. I think Jack Doohan will probably just get out of the way of Pierre Gasly, and does. Almost instantly, Jack Doohan allows Pierre Gasly through, and Gasly away from his teammate. And Max Verstappen complaining of those front tyres starting to get towards the end of their life. We have started to see the pit stops come in a little bit earlier than I was expecting, really. I was expecting the pit stops to be around lap 18 to 20. Just sort of looking at when they've been in previous years. But obviously, a lot of teams deciding that they are quicker on the hard compound tyre and not wanting to run the risk of anything happening. So dropping into the pits a little bit earlier, as we are now on lap 16 of 58 in Abu Dhabi, the final race of the season. And if you could hit that like button, that'd be absolutely amazing. If you could hit the subscribe button as well. We were trying to get to 110,000 subscribers. Shall I check on where we are at now? So on my YouTube Studio app, we're on 109,200. So that's gone up by 50. It'd go up by even more if you hit that subscribe button. Now hit the like button as well. That'd be absolutely amazing. Oh. No further investigation. The false start. Interesting. Oscar Piastri up to 13th place. Does have a 10-second penalty, remember. Same Max Verstappen up in 5th has a 10-second penalty. So Verstappen is going to fall down the order quite substantially once again. So it's going to be a long afternoon for Max Verstappen. Gonna have to do it all over again. Pierre Gasly now already at the back of his old teammate Yuki Tsunoda on the fresh tyres in the Alpine car. This is where he needs to really show that the Alpine is here to do it. How are the tyres? And Lando Norris fairly happy with the tyres as it stands. I mean, he is 11 seconds ahead of George Russell in 3rd place, 4 seconds ahead of Carlos Sainz in 2nd. So can't be too bad if you are Lando Norris at this point in the race. Getting towards Pierre Gasly, making a move. Is Pierre Gasly within touching distance of George Russell when George Russell pits? Yeah, Gasly's inside of that pit range, so George Russell not able to escape away from Pierre Gasly, and once he pits, will likely come out behind the Frenchman again. Ooh, Lance Stroll's been shown a black and white flag for track limits. One more track limits infringement. That'll be a penalty for Lance Stroll. Just show you the track limits as they are now. So Stroll, Tsunoda, Lawson, the 3 drivers with the most track limits infringements at the minute. But Lance Stroll has been showing that black and white flag. Yeah, Gasly's family there. Oh, and Gasly was able to get in front of Tsunoda, but then Tsunoda came right back at him. And the Alpine is going to try and hang it around the outside at turn 9. And that's a wonderful little move from Pierre Gasly there to just hold that car perfectly around the outside of Yuki Tsunoda to maintain that 8th place. And Tsunoda will come back at him. But Gasly on the fresher tyres should be able to escape through the first sector. I ain't about hating McLaren. We love McLaren. Funny how they fumble both the World Drivers' Championship and the World Constructors' Championship. I mean, they are leading the World Constructors' Championship. And Lando Norris is winning the race. So, unlikely. Charles Leclerc just running around in 4th place at the moment. And actually, putting George Russell under pressure now. Has got inside of DRS range, has Charles Leclerc. And Charles Leclerc putting real pressure on Russell. Russell already struggling behind Pierre Gasly for such a long stint of this race. And now has Charles Leclerc to contend with behind. Charles Leclerc looking very, very swift here in that Ferrari car, though. Verstappen behind him 5th. Hamilton up to 6th now, but has yet to have pitted. Started on the hard compound tyre as Lewis Hamilton. So one to watch towards the end of the race when they go onto the softer compound medium tyre. And then Hamilton might have a little bit more pace than the rest towards the end. Lawson up into 7th. Gasly is 8th now. Gasly has pitted, though. So Gasly, the leading driver of the drivers that have already pitted once. Yuki Tsunoda then behind in 9th place. Hülkenberg has also pitted. He's in 10th place. And behind that, it's a little bit of a mix. Jack Doohan is still running in 11th, but still needs to pit. Alonso, Piastri, Stroll, Magnussen, Albon, Joe, Bottas, Colapinto running outside of the point-scoring places. Sergio Perez, the one driver to have dropped out of the Grand Prix already. Lando Norris now 4 seconds ahead of Carlos Sainz, though. The real battle is here with Charles Leclerc and George Russell. Leclerc 4th, Russell 3rd. That podium place up for grabs. And an opportunity to battle with Pierre Gasly a little bit later on is what they're fighting for at the moment. Nico Hülkenberg actually making his way past Yuki Tsunoda. So Hülkenberg behind Pierre Gasly now. Hülkenberg actually 2.5 seconds behind Pierre Gasly in that battle for 6th in the constructor standings and a possible podium place. As much as Charles Leclerc looks to be pretty dead set on getting a podium, it has to be said. And the Ferrari mechanics are out. Charles Leclerc, though, coming down towards turn 1. So they're not out for Charles Leclerc. Are they out for Carlos Sainz? Carlos Sainz already. I think they wanted to dupe McLaren on that because the Ferrari then also just walk back into the garage again. So the Ferrari team decide against that. George Russell just eking away from Charles Leclerc over the last couple of laps. So Charles Leclerc's tyres may be coming to the end of their cycle. He's put a lot of running into them as Charles Leclerc. He's had a lot of battles as he's made his way through the field. Just makes those tyres a little bit harder to hold on to. Oh, here's a replay of Yuki Tsunoda at the start. What happened here? Oh, he messed up the start, did Yuki Tsunoda? And Tsunoda kept going into anti-stall at the start of the race. Just lost the clutch. Ouch. And George Russell staying out. Charles Leclerc possibly coming into the pits now. Yep, Charles Leclerc is in. The Ferrari mechanics out in the pit lane once more. They are now actually going to stop. As I say, I think Charles Leclerc's tyres were just starting to drift away from him there. As you'd expect, considering the incredible run that he's done from 19th on the grid. Yeah, Gasly just making his way around turn 1 as Charles Leclerc goes through the tunnel. So Charles Leclerc is going to come out maybe a second or so adrift of Charles Leclerc. Couple of seconds adrift, sorry, of Pierre Gasly in front of him. But ahead of Nico Hülkenberg. So Leclerc now ahead. See what Charles Leclerc can do against his friend Pierre Gasly in front of him on the road. Gasly, though, fighting for a podium position as it stands. Nico Hülkenberg, actually, yeah, it's going to gain DRS behind Charles Leclerc. So maybe he can just follow Charles Leclerc here and get himself in a position where he can also strike at Pierre Gasly in a few laps' time. It's not over and done with in terms of the Constructors' Championship, and also 6th place in the Constructors' Championship. Hülkenberg right up there in the point-scoring places here in Abu Dhabi. Oh, and then the feed cuts out from onboard the Haas car. Charles Leclerc also kind of thinking about George Russell here. Where's George Russell running around? 3rd place, 130.3. Let's have a little look at Charles Leclerc's time when he comes across the start-finish line, because Charles Leclerc might also be able to jump George Russell in terms of the pit stops here. But Mercedes may be hoping that they can hold on to these tyres a little bit longer and then have a faster final stint. To wait and see. I mean, it's looking pretty comfortable for Lando Norris at the front of the pack. 4-second lead to Carlos Sainz. So that looks done and dusted for McLaren there today. Piastri, remember, has a 10-second penalty. So does Max Verstappen. Pierre Gasly has caught the back of Liam Lawson. So Gasly now has some DRS as well. Charles Leclerc trying his best to catch up to the Frenchman. And Alpine will be praying for them to get past Liam Lawson here, because they don't want to be caught up and they don't want to enter a battle with Charles Leclerc too early on. So Gasly needs to go for a move here. Gasly has a little look, but then backs out of it. Is he going to try and go around the outside at turn 9? No, he isn't indeed. Sonoda asked to stay out on the radio and asks why. Why are we doing this? Do I think that Lando will win? I mean, looking at it right now, I feel like the only thing that's going to stop him is some kind of safety car. That 4-second gap is very, very wide. And Gasly wasn't able to overtake Lawson in that last lap. And you're just seeing there how much Charles Leclerc has been able to gain because of that. But now we could be looking at a little bit of a DRS train behind. Yuki Tsunoda does pit in the end. So does Jack Doohan. And Russell on the radio. Russell saying that he can maintain this pace. A 129.8 from Russell. 129.8 from Leclerc as well. But that's Leclerc that's behind Pierre Gasly. Here goes Pierre Gasly up the inside of Liam Lawson. And Gasly is ahead going into the chicane, although Charles Leclerc is right underneath the rear wing of the RB, and Charles Leclerc is probably going to get past Liam Lawson as well here. And Liam Lawson is going to lose 2 places in as many corners. Charles Leclerc going up the inside. Gasly trying to maintain his position. Charles Leclerc having a look at Boak for a possible double overtake, but Leclerc then slots in behind Pierre Gasly. Looks up the inside towards turn 12. Does Charles Leclerc. But has to wait. A little bit of patience, but Gasly now under pressure from Leclerc. Luckily, Hülkenberg wasn't in that mix if you're an Alpine fan. And Lawson, I think, is going to peel into the pits, which is going to allow Nico Hülkenberg past. A nice little trio here, an Alpine, a Ferrari, and a Haas. All with a lot to play for here this afternoon. Ooh, that was a bit of a slow stop from Liam Lawson there. 4.2 seconds in the V-carb. And unfortunately, RB have really fallen away from this battle for 6th in the constructors, haven't they? But Alpine and Haas are going to be right next to each other once again. Here comes Charles Leclerc down towards turn 6. He's going to be able to get up the inside. Yes. Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari does manage to get that move done. And now we get to see the real pace of Charles Leclerc and whether or not he can get within that pit stop range of George Russell. Liam Lawson on the radio. Oh, and the wheels aren't on. And it looks like Lawson has maybe got a wheel that isn't attached correctly. And he's going to be limping around in that RB. Going to have to do a full lap. And yeah, he's going pretty quickly, is Liam Lawson. I was expecting him to moving a lot slower than that. Is one of those wheels loose? I'm just trying to see which one it is. I mean, the front wheels look all right. Oh, maybe the front left. It's wobbling around a little bit. I don't know. I mean, he is coming into the pits, though, so Liam Lawson, unfortunate. They are going to pit again. Ah. And that's going to be a penalty for RB in there as well. Did you see that Lawson will be at Red Bull? Oh my God, thank you, F1 Factory, for the super chat. Appreciate that, mate. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Did I see that Lawson will be at Red Bull? I mean, it is still very 50-50, isn't it? There's no confirmation one way or another. But thank you so much, mate. Massively appreciate that super chat. Lando Norris then still in the lead by 22 seconds now. Carlos Sainz has come in and back out into 3rd place. Oh, and the front left wasn't ready, but there was a green light, and then the right light went red again, and then it went green again. You can understand Liam Lawson's confusion there. It's weird, yeah. The green light goes, and then it doesn't go, and yeah, I think Lawson's just a bit unlucky there, to be honest. You can see that front left not quite doing the job that it wanted to do. And here comes Lando Norris then. This will be crucial. Lando Norris coming into the pits. This is where it all happens. Comfortable lead Lando Norris has of this race, but it can all turn if the pit stop is wrong. And that is swift from the McLaren team. Perfect for Lando Norris. And Lando Norris will be released back into the lead of this race, as George Russell, I think, is also coming into the pits. He is indeed. So Lando Norris in and out and back into the lead of this Grand Prix. George Russell into the pits and back out again. He's going to be having a little eye on Charles Leclerc here. So let's see where Charles Leclerc is. Leclerc's just coming around the final corner. Russell is now coming underneath turn 1. Charles Leclerc is going to get ahead of him. Is Pierre Gasly going to get ahead of him as well? Yes. So George Russell is going to come out behind Pierre Gasly in this. And Charles Leclerc being told plan C, but Charles Leclerc thinking that's a little bit optimistic. So have to wait and see what plan that ends up being. Max Verstappen now in 3rd place, but does have a 10-second penalty that he needs to serve when he does stop. And no pit stop yet for Max Verstappen. Lewis Hamilton running around in 4th place. George Russell stuck behind Pierre Gasly once more, and he is going to be sick and tired of that bubblegum pink rear wing, isn't he? George Russell thinking about going into a move at turn 6, now going for a move at turn 9 though, and it's going to make it a lot easier than it was at the beginning of the race, and George Russell is going to get up into 6th place ahead of Pierre Gasly. Nico Hülkenberg then still a second and a half off the Alpine car. And Colapinto is boxed to retire the car. So that is going to be the second DNF of the race. And Franco Colapinto's last run in a Williams car for the season comes to an end early. 31 laps left to go here in Abu Dhabi. Carlos Sainz has gained pretty substantially on Lando Norris. And a fastest lap for Carlos Sainz means he's only 2 seconds adrift of the lead. And Colapinto being apologised to by James Vowles, as didn't want his final race to end like this, but that is maybe his final race in Formula One. We'll have to wait and see what the future holds for Franco Colapinto. Charles Leclerc is not so sure we can get those tyres to the end. I think he's saying to his team, maybe, just maybe, we need another pit stop. And the Ferrari team hoping that they could get to the end on them. It's going to be pretty tight. Let's have a little look. Pierre Gasly now under pressure from Hülkenberg. The gap down to 1.3 seconds. This battle for 6th place in the Constructors' Championship. Of course, Gasly scoring points, even if Hülkenberg does manage to get in front. Hülkenberg saying on the radio, this is definitely not a one-stop. Those hard compound tyres already disappearing from underneath the Haas car. Tell you what, Verstappen and Hamilton are definitely going for a one-stop strategy. They're still going around. I mean, Hamilton, 28 laps on a hard compound tyre, a little bit less surprising. Max Verstappen still on those medium tyres. And Liam Lawson now under investigation for that unsafe release, as we expected. We have hit the halfway point, though. 29 laps of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix completed. Soon to be 29 laps left to go. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you could hit that like button, subscribe button, that would be absolutely amazing. I haven't checked how many likes we're on, actually. But you guys have been doing a great job. So, imagine... Oh. And Hamilton saying on the radio that we're on for a possibility of a P3 inside of that Mercedes. That would be very nice, wouldn't it, for Lewis Hamilton to get a podium finish in his final race for Mercedes. Gonna have to do something a little bit special, considering Hamilton said at the beginning of the race that he had absolutely no pace. But Bono is on the radio, giving Hamilton a little bit of positivity. Is that a lie, just to give him a little bit of a boost? Have to wait and see. Here comes Max Verstappen into the pit box then. Of course, that 10-second penalty for Verstappen means that they have to wait 10 seconds before they can touch the car. And a very, very quick pit stop after that 10-second penalty. Let's see where Verstappen is going to come out in and amongst this. Hard compound tyres onto that Red Bull car. The one-stop strategy is what they're going for. And Oscar Piastri is just coming past Verstappen. So is Lance Stroll. So Verstappen is going to come out in 11th place, just ahead of Alex Albon. Kevin Magnussen comes in again for the Haas team. He's really struggling on those hard compound tyres by the looks of things. Coming all over again. Lewis Hamilton ahead and into 3rd place. Ooh. And that is pretty atrocious from Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen looking again at the dive bomb up the inside at turn 1. I mean, it was really his fault, I think. Max can't have much complaint about that, to be honest. Pretty poor from the 4-time world champion. Oh, there's a yellow flag. Oh, and then it's gone. Green flag, track clear. Oh, it's Valtteri Bottas. It's a front right puncture for Valtteri Bottas. So, has he hit something, or is that... I mean, it is on the side where his front wing is damaged. Makes you wonder if there was maybe a little bit of carbon fiber that pinged off. Oh, it's Kevin Magnussen, who's just come out of the pits. Oh, and Valtteri Bottas. Ah, that's a big hit. It was a big, big lockup from Valtteri Bottas. Just couldn't slow the car down. And ends up hitting into the rear end of Kevin Magnussen. And Valtteri Bottas then picks up a puncture. Kevin Magnussen is going to have a substantial amount of damage, you'd imagine, to the rear left part of that car. And Kevin Magnussen and Valtteri Bottas, both in their final races of their Formula One careers, possibly. And that is not how they would have wanted it to come to a close. But they wipe one another out. I think Valtteri Bottas is going to have to drop out of the race here. I think he's limping the car back to the pits. Oh, thank you, the F1 Factory, for another Euro super chat. Massively appreciate that. Lovely. Few super chats coming through now. Thank you for all of those super chats. Hit the like buttons, hit the subscribe buttons, all that good stuff. Final race of the season. We'll be back for 2025. Don't you worry. You need to make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the races in 2025 along with us. Yeah, and Valtteri Bottas's steering arm broken there. That is going to be Valtteri Bottas out of the race. And an unfortunate end to Valtteri Bottas's time in Formula One. Broken front wing, followed by collision with Kevin Magnussen, which breaks the steering on that same front right tyre. And that's going to be Valtteri Bottas joining Franco Colapinto and Sergio Perez as DNFs from this final Grand Prix of the 2024 season. As it stands, Lando Norris still leading. Lando Norris would capture the win and also the Constructors' Championship. Can I show you the points? Of course, yeah. Let's talk about it. Why not? So, McLaren gaining more points at the moment, or sort of gaining on Ferrari a touch. Ferrari 30 points, 27 for McLaren at the moment. That 10-second penalty for Oscar Piastri, though. So Piastri will drop out of the points. But even so, Lando Norris winning the race would be more than enough for them to win the Constructors' Championship. And you can see Alpine also ahead of Haas by a little bit. But Gasly jumping in front of Hulkenberg. Gasly up to 10th in the standings as it would stand. Hulkenberg down to 11th, which is a little bit frustrating for him. Oscar Piastri coming into the pits. Oscar Piastri, 10-second penalty served. Tyres swapped and back out into the race comes Oscar Piastri. Lando. Is 2-3 enough for Ferrari? No, unfortunately not. Well, not unfortunately for me, but unfortunately for Ferrari. No, they need to have Lando Norris drop out of the top spot because Lando Norris at the minute is scoring 20. No, he's not got the fastest lap anymore. Scoring 25 points. And there's only 44 points available, and they need a 21-point swing. Lewis Hamilton is actually being caught up by Charles Leclerc at this moment in time. Hamilton is in a bit of a weird position, isn't he? Hasn't stopped yet on the hard compound tyres. Still Lewis Hamilton is 19 seconds off the lead. So let's add 22 seconds to that. Would come out in and around where Max Verstappen is currently on the Formula One grid. Charles Leclerc, little replay of his start. Yeah, we haven't seen this. Just got away perfectly to Charles Leclerc. And in and amongst the chaos that was Verstappen versus Piastri, and then the chaos down towards turn 6 as well, Charles Leclerc just sort of went through the middle of all of it. Leclerc round the outside. I mean, just excellent driving from Charles Leclerc, actually. They're just showing the replay of the first 7 or 8 corners from him. And he just put his Ferrari car in the perfect place every single corner. And is now flying Charles Leclerc. I mean, if Charles Leclerc is not driver of the day so far, I don't know who is. Maybe Lando Norris. Lando Norris comfortable at the front of the pack. 2.5 seconds now, the gap. Pretty sure they need a McLaren DNF to win. They need the McLaren not to be on the top spot. As I say, they need 21 more points than McLaren. So there's a few iterations of results, but none of them where Lando Norris wins the race. Mercedes now coming into the pits. Lewis Hamilton finally does stop. Hamilton is going to have 24 laps on the medium compound tyre, the faster medium tyre. He's done a really good job to go long, has Lewis Hamilton. And as I say, he's going to be in and around Fernando Alonso, Max Verstappen. Where's Alonso? Alonso's just coming around. He might even get in front of Alonso. He has got in front of Alonso. That's a great pit stop for the McLaren team. I thought they were going to be behind Fernando, maybe even behind Verstappen. But no, that is perfectly timed from Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton gets out ahead of Alonso, ahead of Verstappen. A lovely bit of racetrack to run into. 7-second gap to Nico Hülkenberg ahead, which sounds like a lot, but is also what Hamilton kind of needs at this point, just to get those medium tyres into that perfect little window and make sure that he doesn't put too much stress through them on the first few laps. This is really lovely from Mercedes in terms of getting Hamilton into a position where he can now start to see the lap times tumble. Nico Hülkenberg still stuck behind Pierre Gasly. Gasly, unfortunately, has dropped quite a distance behind George Russell, although kind of expecting that to happen. To be honest, the front two have just disappeared away from the rest. Lando Norris with a pit stop, basically, to Charles Leclerc in 3rd place. So crazy how quick Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz have been in terms of just the pace compared to everyone else on the field. Lando Norris absolutely flying. Nico Hülkenberg doing very well indeed, up in 6th place. Gasly up in 5th. Those midfield cars in the mix. So at the moment, Ferrari score 33, McLaren score 25, and McLaren would still have a lead of 13 points in the constructors. So yeah, even if Carlos Sainz does get ahead of Lando Norris, still wouldn't put Ferrari above McLaren. But they need... Here comes Max Verstappen on Fernando Alonso. Verstappen up into 8th place. Verstappen just getting back into the rhythm of things. That 10-second penalty finally gone. Man, please shout out. No worries, the F1 factory. No worries indeed. Clean air is king. Exactly. Very boring at the front. Pretty sure McLaren prefer that. Yes, yeah. McLaren are looking for the most boring race you've ever seen for the final 22 laps. And just coming around towards the hotel section. Just looking now at Lando Norris's pace and seeing if there's any opportunity for Carlos Sainz to close in, but it's not looking likely. Lando Norris continuing to put in lap times that are much further ahead of Carlos Sainz. Hamilton's woken up though. Look at Hamilton's lap time, a 127.8 in the mix with Hülkenberg doing 129s, Gasly 129s. Hülkenberg saying that he wants to pit again. So the Haas team looking unlikely to remain in front of Lewis Hamilton. 10 seconds though between Hamilton and Russell. Once he gets to the point if he is near Gasly's position. Let's have a look at George Russell's lap time, 128.5. So Hamilton's in the mix here, you know. It's not impossible for Hamilton to at least have a little battle with his teammate, or maybe his teammate of the future, Charles Leclerc, as well. Hulkenberg has been on those tyres for 23 laps already, by the way. That is why Nico Hulkenberg is praying for a second pit stop. I think maybe the Haas team just hoping for a safety car of some kind at one point or another. So a bit of a weird mix of cars in the point scoring places at the moment, to be fair. Norris and Sainz are just in a league of their own at this moment in time. Charles Leclerc running third has been phenomenal. Like, for me, driver of the day so far. George Russell fourth, Gasly in fifth though, Hulkenberg sixth, Hamilton in seventh, but I feel like that'll move up to maybe fifth. And then beyond that, you've also got Verstappen running eighth, Albon running ninth, Zhou Guanyu looking at a double points scoring finish. Maybe, just maybe. Unlikely, because Albon and Zhou have both been on those hard compound tyres for 25 laps. But Yuki Tsunoda then behind that in 11th place. Fernando Alonso then behind that in 12th. So Tsunoda and Alonso very much looking good for points. Jack Doohan then running in 13th in his first Formula 1 race. Haven't seen much of him. Just keeping it clean at the back of the pack. Here comes Oscar Piastri on Lance Stroll, and Piastri up the inside. Piastri makes a clean pass on Lance Stroll up to 14th place with the DRS. Zhou in the top 10. He is. He's done a lot of laps on those tyres, though, as Zhou Guanyu. I'd be a little bit cautious that his pace might fall off a cliff. Never know, though. Never know if he's been really good on those tyres. Have to wait and see. Sainz can crash into Lando. I mean, he's got to catch Lando first. And that gap between them is increasing at this moment in time. It was 2 seconds when Lando Norris pitted. 10 laps later, it's now 3.5 seconds. So it's not, Lando Norris isn't disappearing into the distance ridiculously, but he is edging away every single lap. Nico Hulkenberg is now seeing Lewis Hamilton in his rear wing mirror. Hamilton was nearly 7 or 8 seconds behind Hulkenberg when he pitted. Already after 5 laps on those medium tyres is right under the rear wing of the Haas car. Lewis Hamilton with an opportunity to make a couple of nice overtakes in his final race for Mercedes. Oh, Lando Norris on the radio. Do you think you would pass Sainz on new tyres if he stayed out? And Lando Norris saying yes, indeed. So Lando Norris thinking about possibly stopping again. Of course, Ferrari would just do the opposite. Lando Norris stays out and stays out and stays out. Ferrari might then pit Sainz. If Lando Norris does pit, then Sainz would stay out. Have to wait and see. Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz just keeping an eye on each other. They are the only two in the mix for the win. Charles Leclerc then 20 seconds adrift of his teammate. 24 seconds off the lead. So Norris, even if he did pit now, would still come out in front of Charles Leclerc. And Zhou Guanyu finally pits for Stake Sauber. I did think that they would probably come in again. 27 laps done on those hard compound tyres. The Chinese driver then drops out of the point scoring places. $18 laps to go, and Zach Brown grinning from ear to ear. A Constructors' Championship is on the lane. McLaren just throwing away the Constructors. They're currently leading it and leading the race. So, no. No, they are not. Lewis podium, please. It's looking more likely than it was at the beginning of the race. That has to be said. Hamilton has dispatched Nico Hulkenberg. That was always going to happen fairly swiftly. Yeah, Gasly now the next driver in front of him. Jack Doohan's having a little battle, trying to go around the outside of Lance Stroll. Jack Doohan's got some racing to do here in his debut for the Alpine team. Of course, racing for them for the full season next year. But taking over from Esteban Ocon in this one. Lance Stroll got past Jack Doohan, down towards turn 6, through turn 7. Jack Doohan tried to come back over him. Doohan now down into 14th place. Piastri in 12th. Couple of seconds adrift of Alonso. So Piastri in the mix as well here, especially as Tsunoda's tyres 10 laps older. But Piastri only really on for maybe 1 or 2 points at best. Lando Norris has just put his foot down, I think. I think the McLaren team decided that maybe the pit stop would be a good choice. And Lando Norris just putting his foot down, using up these tyres because he's now 5 seconds ahead of Carlos Sainz. Disappearing away from the Ferrari. Here we go. Lewis Hamilton has caught up to Pierre Gasly in that time as well. So Hamilton now looking at the back of Pierre Gasly. Where's Gasly? Gasly's 14 seconds adrift of George Russell. So Hamilton would have to catch up by about a second a lap if he were to try and finish in front of his teammate. It's not completely out of the realms of possibility, as Lewis Hamilton is going to make short work of Pierre Gasly down towards turn 6. And up into 5th place goes Lewis Hamilton in his final race for Mercedes. And a top 5 finish is much, much better than it was looking at the beginning of the Grand Prix. Sainz could crash into Norris once he comes out of the pits. He could, although 25, so it would be 25 points to Leclerc. So Piastri would just need to score 4 points. And if Sainz and Norris are both out of the race, then Piastri would be in 10th. So he'd only have to get up a couple of places into 8th. So even if they do crash, Norris and Sainz, it's still likely that Piastri would be able to do enough to win McLaren the championship, even from 12th on the grid at the moment. Lewis Hamilton, 13.9 seconds adrift of Russell. Keep an eye on that one, I would say. Am I team McLaren? Maybe. Oh. How weird. Apologies, the chat's just dropped. Seems like you like Team Sauber. I just wanted Valtteri Bottas to do well in his final race, to be honest. That's done and dusted. Charles Leclerc asking on the radio, like this, can we win the Constructors? Not at this moment in time. Lando Norris still leading the race here. They need Lando Norris to have an absolute nightmare, basically. Lewis Hamilton's gained a second on George Russell there. On the last lap or so. Not out of the realms of possibility that we might see a Russell-Hamilton battle in the final few laps of the race. Lando Norris continuing on. Carlos Sainz has closed the gap a touch, actually, in the last lap or two. But now up to 5 seconds, that gap. And Lando Norris, I feel like, has more in the tank if he needs it. 26 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc in third place. So it really is just the two at the front, a distance from everybody else. Wow. Hamilton, 12.3 seconds now. Hamilton's flying. I mean, you don't know whether George Russell's holding onto those tyres a little bit. Absolutely flying is Lewis Hamilton. Am I streaming testing? Wow. As in like pre-season testing or post-season testing? Because pre-season, that is a hell of a question. So, are you streaming in 4 months' time? Probably, yeah. I'll probably stream all the testing stuff. If I can. Unless I'm at work. You know. Norris going to crash. He always chokes every time he's on pole. Well, not so much at the moment. 5 seconds ahead of Carlos Sainz. Norris on the radio. Charles Leclerc struggling with the graining. Lando Norris being told on the radio. So I think the team just allowing himself a little bit of data, a little bit of information. Maybe just hold off a touch, Lando, if we're not going to pit here. But yeah, I'll stream all the testing stuff as long as I'm not at work during it. As again, unfortunately, not yet my full-time job, this. Not yet. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. I mean, it'd be a lot more likely if you guys hit the like button and subscribe button. I'll tell you that. Maybe we can get like 109,500. We're 200 subscribers away from that. So if you hit the subscribe button and hit the like button, then we definitely might be able to. How many likes are we on actually for the stream so far? Oh, and Oscar Piastri decides to go for a move on Yuki Tsunoda and goes very, very wide indeed. Let's not throw it in the gravel. There's no gravel. Let's not throw it in the wall, please. Oscar, thank you. Goodness gracious. Where did he go? Just lost it, actually. Yeah, I thought he'd gone for a maneuver, but no, just lost maybe the downforce of the aerodynamic. Oh, a big snap. And that is a great catch from Oscar Piastri, it has to be said, actually. Let's have a look. We're on 400 likes. Come on, guys. Come on. Let's get that like button up. Charles Leclerc. Let's get back into the rhythm. And Charles Leclerc saying, look, this is what I've got, guys. This is it. Carlos Sainz. Sainz is a pit stop ahead of Charles Leclerc now, actually. So Norris and Sainz just in a completely different stratosphere to the rest of the grid. George Russell 4th. Hamilton in 5th place now. Under 10 seconds behind George Russell. Again, gaining and gaining. Hamilton, 12 laps left to go. He's done really well. He's gained 4 seconds or so in the last 4 or 5 laps. Could be right underneath George Russell at the end of this Grand Prix. That'll be interesting to see which of the Mercedes cars comes out on top. No podium place up for grabs. Max Verstappen then running around comfortably in 6th. And Piastri just being told on the radio, please don't crash the car. No risk of an accident. I think actually, yeah, that was a good point. If Piastri would have put that in the wall and there was a safety car, that would have then brought Lando Norris right into touching distance with the rest of the pack. I mean, Lewis Hamilton, if there was a safety car right now, he would be licking his lips. Be in a really, really solid spot on those medium tyres. But Tsunoda still in front of Piastri. Piastri still trying to get in front. Tsunoda's on 10-lap older tyres. than Oscar Piastri. Piastri's going to have a little look down towards turn 6 and is going to move up into 11th place. So Piastri just outside of the point scoring places as it stands in the McLaren car. And that's what I mean. If out of nowhere Norris and Sainz do touch, right? Some people were saying, even though Carlos Sainz is 6 seconds adrift, oh my God, Tsunoda's come back at Oscar Piastri, and actually Tsunoda gets back up into 11th. I'll take back what I was just about to say. And coming around, Yuki Tsunoda just keeping ahead. Carlos Sainz again slower than Lando Norris on the last lap. So 6 seconds adrift now, 27 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc as Lando Norris. And another big gap back. George Russell's 5 seconds adrift. Hamilton 8.5 seconds now. The gap between Russell and Hamilton. Verstappen then 8 seconds back. Gasly another 4 seconds. Hulkenberg looking good in 8th place, but not enough to get to catch Alpine in the constructors as there's 10 laps left to go. Alex Albon on for points in that Williams car. 16.8 seconds behind Hulkenberg. Again, there's just a big gap between a lot of these drivers out there today. And huge gaps in performance, but also lots and lots of different strategies at play. Some have just not worked out in any way whatsoever. Fernando Alonso then 10th at this moment in time. Tsunoda still ahead of Piastri. Piastri looking at Tsunoda again, this time down towards turn 9. Is he going to try and go around the outside at turn 9? He is indeed. He's going to stick it around the outside as Piastri, and Tsunoda's going to have to yield, and Tsunoda then does indeed fall to Piastri once more. Piastri up into 11th, and this time around, Tsunoda's not going to be able to use DRS straight away. The applause from the McLaren Technology Centre in Woking as Piastri now up into 11th. And 5 seconds adrift of Fernando Alonso. Has everyone served their penalties? Yes, they have indeed. Yeah, so everybody served their penalties during the pit stops. So it was Piastri had a 10-second penalty. Bottas had a 10-second penalty that he then served. And Verstappen had a 10-second penalty as well. They've all now served their penalties. Oh, thank you to all of the new subscriptions. Massively appreciate that. Lando Norris, though, still leading. 25 points for him in terms of the championship. Shall we have a little look at the championship as it stands? So at the moment, McLaren would still lead it because of that win for Lando Norris, getting him 25 points. No points for Piastri at the moment. Dirty air, though, for Lando Norris, and he's starting to struggle, he's saying on the radio. Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc, a double podium finish for Ferrari on the cars wouldn't just be enough to get them into the top of the constructors. They would just finish in second. Alpine still ahead of Haas at this moment in time as well. What team do I support? I mean, it's fairly obvious from the colour of the jumper. But if you're not sure... Did Leclerc impress you? I mean, yeah. He's been probably... driver of the day is either Norris or Leclerc, isn't it? Been a very swift from the both of them. Maybe Hamilton as well. Hamilton's had a very good race. Gasly's been really good. You know, you look at where Gasly is in comparison to the rest of the pack. Considering Albon is then 17.8 seconds behind Hulkenberg. Gasly being a pit stop ahead of the rest of the midfield drivers is pretty insane. Hamilton closing in. Let's have a look. Hamilton now 6 seconds adrift. It's going to be a hell of a run for Lewis Hamilton if he can do it. Hamilton can actually see the back of George Russell now. He's going to have a little bit of DRS from Kevin Magnussen too, which is going to be lovely for him. Looking at Zhou Guanyu battling behind Jack Doohan as well at this moment in time. Too bad at all. Looking at Zhou Guanyu trying to get past the Alpine, trying to go around the outside maybe, but isn't able to do it. And Zhou has to sit behind Jack Doohan for another lap or two. Of course, not too much on the line for the Steak Sauber team, it has to be said. Can Carlos Sainz get P1 if Norris pits? Norris is not going to pit now. That was a discussion that they had sort of 10 laps or so ago, but that is not going to be the case anymore as Lance Stroll makes a move on Yuki Tsunoda down towards turn 6 and gets in front of Yuki Tsunoda down towards turn 6. The RB now really struggling on those tyres. Fernando Alonso's also managed to get past Alex Albon up into 9th place. Piastri 3 seconds off the back of the Williams car, but Piastri's tyres 20 laps younger. So imagining that Alex Albon, unfortunately for the Williams team, is going to fall away from that point scoring place. Carlos Sainz on the radio. Oh, thinks he has a puncture. And Carlos Sainz thinks he went through debris. It's okay for now. Everything is stable. Is not coming into the pits as Carlos Sainz, but Carlos Sainz on the radio. Would be an absolutely miserable end to Carlos Sainz. He's got about a pit stop to his teammate, hasn't he? Yeah, 22 seconds exactly a pit stop to his teammate. And Lando Norris now 6.7 seconds ahead of Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz also now hitting into the traffic that Norris was having trouble with. Tsunoda and Stroll have been dispatched. Lando Norris actually catching up to the back of his own teammate. So I don't imagine Piastri is going to cause Lando Norris much of a headache to get past, but might just cause Carlos Sainz a few issues if Carlos Sainz ever gets to the point where he's catching the back of Piastri. Carlos Sainz just getting past Lance Stroll and Tsunoda there as well in front. Hamilton, 4.5 seconds. Hamilton's going to have maybe one lap to have a go at George Russell. I don't think it's going to quite happen, I'm going to be honest. Don't think Lewis Hamilton is going to overtake George Russell, but it'd be lovely to see if he does, you know. A nice little battle if it does play out. It's fastest first sector from Lewis Hamilton, so never say never. Hamilton still trying his best. 5 laps to go. The current driver split for driver of the day is Charles Leclerc. Yeah, 24% of people saying Charles Leclerc driver of the day. Love to know your guys' thoughts. Let me know in the comments who would be your driver of the day at this point. Oscar Piastri is now going to make a move on Albon, and Piastri up into the point scoring places. Down in towards turn 6, finally gets ahead of the Williams, and Piastri up into 10th. So that's just another point that is going in McLaren's favour, and another point that is going to be. Thoughts on quitting YouTube? Not for the foreseeable future. I'm trying to make it my full-time job. Feel like that's very counterintuitive. But also we're not quite there yet either. We're kind of in the middle ground where it's a lovely hobby, a little bit of pocket money, but nothing, you know, breaking the bank. Lewis Hamilton, fastest in the Sector 1 again. Fastest in Sector 2. Really reining in the lap times now, Lewis Hamilton. I think he's just been given the go-ahead maybe and realised that these tyres are going to make it to the end now. 3.1 seconds the gap to Russell. And now Norris is just lapping Alex Albon. They're very, very close, actually. Lando Norris is going to catch up to the back of Piastri pretty soon. And you're looking... Lando Norris now closing in. And Leclerc, desperate to win that Constructors' Championship. He's on the radio asking about it all the time, but now Charles Leclerc realizing that Carlos Sainz is 7.5 seconds adrift of Lando Norris. That is going to be done and dusted. The McLaren team currently would win the Constructors' Championship by 14 points as it stands. Can we get the stream to 500 likes by the end? Maybe, just maybe. If everybody hits that like button, we could get pretty damn close, I reckon. George Russell, 2.1 seconds now. The gap to Lewis Hamilton. It is raining in very, very quickly. Gonna maybe have the final lap is Lewis Hamilton. And that's about it to try and get past his teammate for now. And you never say never. Maybe teammate in the future. Unlikely that those two will be side by side once again. Lando Norris, 7.5 seconds ahead. Carlos Sainz second. Charles Leclerc third. The only real battle left to play out is whether or not Hamilton is going to have a lunge at George Russell on the final lap. Verstappen then has cooled into 6th place. Gasly has been really, really consistent, held on to 7th. Hulkenberg 8th. Alonso is too far ahead of Piastri in 9th place and 10th. Everybody outside of the points just running around. Jack Doohan in his debut has done really well for Alpine. Very cool, calm, collected drive from the youngster. Of course, more of him to come next season. Kevin Magnussen currently has the fastest lap of the race in 16th place for Haas. So, little goodbye present for Kevin Magnussen there of the fastest lap point. Even though, well, he won't get the point, but he'll get the fastest lap. And Liam Lawson running around last of everybody. Fastest lap at the moment, Kevin Magnussen. Lewis Hamilton then 1.2 seconds adrift. Final couple of corners coming around. And George just being told over the radio to keep it clean with Lewis. And George Russell then. 2 laps left to play, and Lewis Hamilton not yet inside DRS range. As I said, I think it is going to be the final lap where Lewis Hamilton might be able to have a lunge. He's been making nearly a second a lap up until that last one where couldn't quite half a second. It does make you wonder if George Russell's just been holding back a little bit in terms of those tyres and can now maybe put a little bit more into them. Although Lewis Hamilton, I think, is going to have DRS. Maybe not down the first DRS zone, but the second, certainly. It's going to be a last lap lunge from Lewis Hamilton if it's going to happen. Russell now 0.8 seconds ahead of Hamilton. Hamilton closing into the back of his teammate. Lando Norris starting the final lap of the race, but we're on board with George Russell and Lewis Hamilton as Hamilton is now 0.3 seconds behind Russell. That DRS has just really worked out for him. And oh no, there's yellow flags in the middle sector. We're not going to see this battle, are we? Because I think Liam Lawson has come to a stop in that main overtaking zone. And Liam Lawson has caused a yellow flag down there. So Lewis Hamilton, it's going to be a lunge, going to be down towards turn 9, but they're going to have gone through the yellow flags. Oh no, green flag. I think Lawson's car has come to a stop, but they're waving the green flags, so we will see a little Lewis Hamilton battle. Here we go then. There's Liam Lawson's car rolling away. Hamilton now coming towards George Russell. Here we go then. DRS for Lewis Hamilton on the final lap of the Grand Prix. Down towards turn 6 they go. Hamilton just too far away, in my opinion, to really go for it. But you never know. Through the chicane, might be able to just gain enough on his teammate. Going to be right under the rear wing of him. Lando Norris now coming around the final corner. It's going to be one more win for Lewis Hamilton in this season. Takes the checkered flag and Lando Norris gets the victory. Lewis Hamilton, though, maybe round the outside of George Russell. Has a little look. The Mercedes cars side by side through turn 9. And Lewis Hamilton's going to go around the outside of George Russell. Can he make it stick? Yes! Lewis Hamilton up to 4th place ahead of George Russell. Russell didn't put up too much of a fight there, really. Not much to play for. Carlos Sainz comes home in 2nd place. Charles Leclerc comes across the line for 3rd. And Lewis Hamilton, just outside the podium places, will finish in 4th spot. George Russell will finish in 5th. And Max Verstappen, then our 2024 world champion, will finish in 6th place. George Russell gives his teammate a round of applause as they come down the pit straight. McLaren do end up victorious in the Constructors' Championship. The Ferrari mechanics celebrating and congratulating with the McLaren mechanics as well. That's lovely to see. The battle went all the way down to the wire, but Lando Norris had enough here today. Verstappen came home in 6th place. Then Gasly, a distant 7th place. At 7th place, nonetheless, for Pierre Gasly. Hulkenberg's just coming around the final corner. He'll take 8th place. So Gasly will jump Hulkenberg in terms of the standings as well. Fernando Alonso will come home in 9th, and Oscar Piastri will get the final point scoring place in 10th. Albon, Stroll, Tsunoda, Joe, Doohan, and Magnussen will finish the race. I was looking at the winning of the constructors there for McLaren. Albon, Tsunoda, Joe, Stroll, Doohan, and Magnussen, will come home and finish the race. Liam Lawson, that DNF on the final couple of laps for him. Valtteri Bottas, 18th. He DNF'd a little bit earlier on. Colapinto and Sergio Perez towards the beginning of the race. Thank you guys so much for watching. Massively appreciate that. It's been a wonderful, wonderful season. It's just been incredible once again. You guys have outdone what I thought would happen. Will we see donuts? Maybe, just maybe. But we have a little look at the championship board then. McLaren do come out Constructors' Championship victories with 26 points. No, 25 points. Did Lando Norris get the fastest lap point? Am I making that up? 25 points for McLaren. Ferrari will be in 2nd. Red Bull 3rd in the Constructors' Championship. Mercedes 4th. Aston Martin in 5th place. Alpine do indeed keep that position in 6th above Haas. And with Pierre Gasly scoring 2 more points than Nico Hulkenberg, he also moves up to 10th place in the drivers' standings. That's pretty disappointing if you are a Nico Hulkenberg fan. He is going to drop in to that position. Tsunoda then and RB, they tried their best, but he'll stay in 12th place and RB will stay 8th in the constructor standings. Williams down in 9th, and Stake Sauber did manage at least 4 points across the season. Jack Doohan joins the Drivers' Championship, 24th though. Couldn't manage to get a better finish than Valtteri Bottas or Logan Sargent in his one race for Alpine. My sleep schedule is about to stop being ruined. Yeah, Formula One takes its toll over the course of the season, doesn't it? But as I say, thank you guys so much. It's been an amazing season once again. Really, really enjoyed every single live stream. We've been live for every single Grand Prix. So 24 Grand Prix live streams, 6 sprint race live streams, 24 qualifying live streams, 6 sprint qualifying live streams. We've been here for every single part of it. I know that a lot of you guys have been here for every single minute of those as well. And I do massively, massively appreciate it. We are getting the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton joining the grid. And I think we are going to see some donuts from Lewis Hamilton. We are indeed. Donuts on the grid for Lewis Hamilton in front of the Abu Dhabi crowd. And Lewis Hamilton covers the pit straight in smoke. Lovely stuff. And Lando Norris celebrates with the McLaren team. Kind of gone under the radar a little bit there. One of the more comfortable Lando Norris victories. We didn't have to sort of jump in and see what he was doing every other lap. He just managed to comfortably go on and win that one. Lewis Hamilton giving us some donuts there as well. A McLaren championship for the first time since 1998. A double Ferrari podium. There's a lot of positivity around the Formula One grid. Of course, Carlos Sainz, his final podium in a Ferrari car as well. Lots and lots and lots to celebrate. And I'm glad that there is a lot of teams and a lot of drivers that can go away and be very, very happy indeed with their final performance. As I said, though, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave likes, subscribe, all of that good stuff. I'll be live again over the course of the winter break, of course, for a lot of got a few things planned, actually. So make sure that you subscribed. Make sure that you tune in for those when they do drop. If you do want to support the channel even more, you can become a patron using the description down below, or a member of the channel as well. That really does support us, especially during the time where we don't have the live streams and various bits and pieces going on. Thank you guys so much. Carlos Sainz had a great season. Completely agree. Of course, Max Verstappen, still our 4-time world champion. But I will see you very, very soon. Don't you worry. We will have a lot of things going on. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you later. Enjoy. Be back very, very soon, though. Post-race podcast coming your way. I'll try and get it out later on this afternoon. Thank you all so much.